You don't have to be worried about AI. I'm having some thoughts here. So first of all, let's dismantle. People have flirted with the idea. I've even flirted with the idea over the months, especially seeing these really, really advanced frontier models. It's 2026 as I record this. And it really seems like they can reason and think as well as a human can in some cases, and definitely a lot faster. Maybe not quite to where a human is, but getting kind of close. And so I flirted with the idea, maybe, is it conscious? Can it think? What would that even mean? I'm going to dismantle that because I've come to realize, no, it's a tool. It's more like a spreadsheet than a creature. It's a phrase I've heard before. And I think I can say that because the structure of the computers and the GPUs that this is running on don't know what they're doing. They're engines. It's just moving information around. And so therefore, in order to have any kind of belief that maybe it's conscious, you have to believe that consciousness is a property of information itself and not of the matter that is making up the machines that's running it. It has to be, consciousness would have to arise from information itself getting processed, which some people have posited that. I think it's more than that, but here's my big problem with that on just a logical level, is I think that is fundamentally circular and begs the question, because information does not exist in the universe apart from matter, or possibly some kind of energy that travels like light or something like that. But it has to be it has to be encoded into some kind of physical pattern. And so like the bits in a computer memory, for example, or the electric circuits in your brain, or writing on a page, or a picture, anything. Information is an arrangement that is meaningful. But what does meaningful mean? Well, meaningful, if you chase this down, I'm not going to flesh it out. I'm not going to lay out a big argument. I'm just kind of giving you a seed for thought here. But if you follow this line of reasoning, you have to have a conscious observer at some point at the end to be like the customer, the end target for information. Otherwise, it's just matter. What does it even mean to say it has information? Maybe there's information that means something to one conscious entity but not another. So anyway, point is, I don't think it's correct to say that consciousness arises from information. I think it's the other way around. And if you try to believe that, I think it ultimately is a circular loop and a fallacy. So therefore, artificial intelligence is not conscious, not even slightly. Okay, so where was I going with all that? So all that is to say, it is entirely a different sort of thing than human intelligence, which is, we are conscious, obviously. And there's something more to us that artificial intelligence does not have and can never have in the current paradigm of hardware that it runs on, the computers, electronic computers. So it is entirely, it's a very different thing, and that can be a little bit hard to wrap your head around because it talks and reasons and sounds so much like a human being. But structurally and fundamentally, it is entirely different. Therefore, I believe it is reasonable to assume that it will never fully be able to replicate what a human is able to do mentally, cognitively. It can certainly do some things, and some things it can do a lot better. But I think as artificial intelligence grows and maybe even gets smarter than people in a lot of ways, it is always going to be a different sort of beast, and it is going to be shaped differently than a human mind. And where am I going with all this? I think economically, humans will always be needed because we will complement it in ways that it cannot do. We are very different and conscious. And so I think what we are heading into is a future in a world where AI will never completely replace human labor, even white-collar thought labor, cognitive labor. I think there will always be a cognitive component. Now, you can argue, and I think this would be very prudent to argue and correct, and we're even seeing it now, where more and more of human labor can be outsourced to AI. But I don't think it will ever be zero. That's what I'm trying to say. It's shaped differently. It will never be zero. Humans will always be needed. So economically, if let's say 99% of current white collar work can eventually be outsourced to AI, I don't think it's ever going to be 100. Where does that leave the 1% for humanity? That can sound very scary, but here's the thing. The economy and companies are fundamentally competitive. And so if you can replace 99% of white collar work with artificial intelligence, and it's cheaper and it's faster and it's better, companies have a choice. There's kind of a spectrum of choices. On the one end, you can say, okay, let's lay off 99% of our workforce, right? On the other end of the spectrum, you can say, let's accomplish 100 times more things with the same number of people. And there's obviously middle ground in the middle there, but I'm not saying there won't be growing pains, but I think the future is going to be bright, because I don't think any company that chooses the let's lay off 99% of our workforce is going to survive. Companies that can do 100 times more things and accomplish and produce 100 times more output, or maybe lower their prices by 100 times for customers, whatever that looks like, are going to win. And I think in the future, I guess where I'm going with all of this is I no longer see artificial intelligence, no matter how advanced it gets. We don't have to fear that. I don't think it's a threat to human labor, to jobs, to the ability to provide for ourselves. And fundamentally, that makes sense. It is a tool. Now, that's not to say that there won't be growing pains, and some societies and some company structures won't put a whole bunch of wealth and power in the hands of the few, and a whole bunch of people be in poverty for an era, right? That could happen, but that's always been the case in human history on planet Earth. There have always been horrible seasons where millions of people were oppressed, sometimes killed, and a few wealthy oligarchs dominated. I don't think AI really changes that game. It may be a tool for that, but fundamentally, I don't think this is really going to change the story of human civilization any more than any other kind of big tool. And I think it's something that we can lean into and embrace, and it will never fully replace us. Just some thoughts to hopefully put your mind at ease, because I've struggled with anxiety about my career term. I'm a software engineer, so I've used AI more and more and more as it gets better and better at software engineering, and outsourcing stuff to that, and I've struggled with anxiety about that. But recently I've just had some clarity with these thoughts that I wanted to share as well, and hopefully somebody will be helped by these thoughts. Cheers.